In this video, I'm going to be teaching you exactly how to do beginner's F2L using just 3 simple steps in order to help drop your times immediately. So let's get straight into it. So most people when they start cubing learn the beginner's method, which is where you insert the corner and then you find its respective edge piece and then connect that to the corner and insert them. While in F2L, basically what you're doing in a nutshell is doing them at the same time, which is by far more efficient. So I'm actually going to start with step 3 of learning how to do F2L as a beginner, which might seem a little bit contrary to popular belief, but I'll explain why in just a minute here. And so we're going to start with 4 super easy algorithms that are just used to insert pieces into their correct slots. So as you can see here, we have a completed F2L pair. This particular one is white, red, and green, and we know that that has to go here. So the algorithm that we do for this is R, U prime, R prime, which completes it in. But rather than just memorizing the algorithm, it's more important to understand why it is that you do that, and you're more so just inserting it into the correct slot, as if it was just a corner in the beginner's method. The second insertion algorithm looks like this, and instead of having it on this side and inserting with an R, U prime, R prime, you're holding it on this side with the slot right here in the F2L pair over here, and doing an L prime, U, L to insert it into the correct slot. So the third insertion pair looks like this, where you have your corner piece above where it needs to go, and then the edge piece that it needs to be paired with opposite to it. But the important part is that the sticker that is facing up, they're both opposites. And this basically allows you to skip the pairing up part while you're inserting it. So when you insert it, you're basically pairing them up at the same time. So currently they're not paired up, and what you do is you bring this right layer up in order to pair them up, and then do a U move to put them into the correct slot, and then just an R prime. Now, the algorithm for the fourth insertion pair just looks like this, and it's basically just a mirror, where instead of having your edge piece here and the corner here, the corner is still here, but this time your edge piece is over here. And just like before, the 2 stickers facing up are both opposites. So what you do is an L prime in order to connect them up, and then you move them into the line of fire here, which puts it into the correct slot when you bring it back down. Now, if you're wondering why I did the third step of learning F2L as a beginner first, is because inserting the pieces into the correct slot is the part of it that you have to do almost every single time, unless you get super lucky where the F2L pair is already completed in the correct slot. But that almost never happens. So we'll start with step 1, which is sometimes needed, but other times not really. When you do need it, though, is regardless of the orientation, the piece that you need to pair with the edge piece is already in the slot. And what you want to do is make sure that this corner piece is always on the same level, or in other words, same layer as the edge piece that it has to be paired with. So this edge piece is in the top layer, which is good, but this corner is inside the slot. So what you're going to want to do is move your edge piece out of the way, and then bring your corner up to the top layer. So now the corner is in the same layer as the edge piece that it needs to be paired with, and then rotate it out of the line of fire here, and then just bring back your white cross edge back down. Now, like I said earlier, this isn't always going to be the case, so you don't always have to do this first step, but a lot of times you will, so it's good to know. One good example of when you don't have to do it is when the corner piece and the edge piece are already both in the correct layer, meaning that you don't have to take anything out of the slot. They're already in the correct layer. Which takes us into step 2 of learning F2L as a beginner, which is pairing the pieces up. Now, for some cases, like I showed earlier, this will basically happen as you insert it, but for the good majority of cases, you'll have to pair it up and then insert it separately. So for this particular case here, we have the white, red, and blue corner piece sitting above where it needs to go, and then its edge piece that it needs to be paired up with back here. So what you're going to do for cases like this is you're going to hide the corner noting that there should be an open F2L pair slot in the back here in order to not disturb anything. And then you're just going to do a U2 so that when you bring your corner back up, and or in other words repairing your white cross, they'll be connected. And then you can insert it separately, which is why I explained step 3 first, so you know how to do this. So for this particular one, you would just insert it like that. Now also, like I said earlier, sometimes you won't actually have to do the second step or the first step, and all you have to do is just insert it. And that's the cases where the two stickers are both facing up and they're both already in the correct top layer. And this one's just a connect, like that, so now your F2L pair is connected, and then you can just move it into the correct slot and connect it with the cross edge and then bring it back down. So that would be like this one more time, where you connect the piece, so it's like that, and at the same time you're effectively inserting it. So sometimes, in conclusion, you won't always have to do step 1 and 2. So now I'm just going to sum up exactly how I would do every single F2L pair on this particular mix-up and tell you which step that correlates to. So the first pair that I'm going to be working on here is this white, red, and green corner piece being paired with this red and green edge piece and putting it in the correct slot. So for this particular one, I can see that this white corner piece is facing to the side, which is generally speaking a good thing. And then its other edge piece that's supposed to be paired with it, they both have the same color sticker facing up. So what I can do is, assuming that I have an open F2L slot on the back here, which I do, I can hide this corner piece, and then I have my edge piece that it needs to be paired with here, and I can just do U2 so that when I bring it back, I can just pair up my corner piece and my edge piece. And then, like we said earlier in the video, or in other words, step 3, we can just insert that. So the next one that I'm going to be doing here is this orange and blue paired with this orange, blue, and white. And this is pretty similar to the last case, so I'm just going ahead and move it over where it needs to go. So this is the orange and blue slot, and the orange stickers on both of them are facing up, which makes this identical to the last one, where we can just hide the corner and then move the edge piece that it needs to be paired with over to it, so that when we bring it back up, they'll be paired. And then in step 3, we can just insert it. Now the third one that I'm going to be working on here is this white, orange, and green corner piece being paired with this orange and green edge piece. Now this one is interesting. It's a little bit more difficult, but it's definitely worth knowing because you will get cases like this a lot. So in step 1, we said that when the edge piece and the corner piece aren't on the same layer, for beginners F2L, it's really hard to pair them up. So what we're going to do is rotate our edge out of the line of fire here, and then bring our corner up so it's in the correct layer. It's in the same layer as our edge piece, and then move it away so that we can bring our existing pieces back down so those aren't messed up. And then after that, we'll see that this is just like some previous cases where the orange sticker is facing up on both of these. So what we can do is have our empty F2L slot in the back and just hide the corner, and then rotate the edge piece over to where it needs to be, or in other words a U2, and then bring the corner back up so they're paired. And then in step 3, as we said earlier, you just insert it. So this is the last F2L slot that we're going to be taking care of here, and this is in a way step 1. You want to make sure that the corner piece and its edge piece are separated, which means that you can't really do it that efficiently when they're still connected. In fact, you can't. So what we're going to do here is put it over where it needs to go, and we're going to just hide it back here, noticing that it won't disturb anything when we do U-moves. And basically the corner piece and its edge piece are still connected, but we're about to change that. So we're going to move this corner piece out of the way in order to bring back what we originally did. And now the corner piece and the edge piece are not only on the same layer, but they're no longer connected, which is definitely what we want. So then we are going to realize where they are in relation to each other, and we're going to want to make sure that they're in an insertion pair. So currently they're not in an insertion pair, but what we can do is rotate this like this so that we can hide the corner and then bring the edge to the place where it needs to be in order to create an insertion pair. So oftentimes an insertion pair won't be given to you, instead you have to create it. And so now we have our insertion pair, and this is step 3, where we just connect them and insert them. So now if you're currently struggling with trying to figure out how this whole beginner's F2L thing works, I strongly suggest that you just play around with it a little bit. Experiment with what works and what gets what pieces where, and not necessarily learning algorithms for that, because yes, you are learning how to do it, but you're not learning why it works. So just to recap, step 1 is making sure that your corner piece and the edge piece that it has to be paired with are both on the same layer. Step 2 is connecting them, and then step 3 is taking that connected F2L pair and inserting it. So I can't urge this enough. I strongly suggest that you just experiment around a little bit and experiment with what works and what doesn't, because ultimately the only way that you're going to learn how to do it effectively is to experiment with how exactly you get certain pieces where and what moves do what to the cube. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see some more, make sure to press the like button, and yeah, I hope you have a great day.